Hey everyone, Jamie Phillips, Action Auto Parts. As you can see, we got some rain, didn't we, old Barney? Barney, old pal, old Bean. Yeah, I know, you always wanting petted. He has gotten so spoiled, you all. He's always wanting pets and treats. But anyway, we was going to try to move this old truck to the back today, but I think I'm gonna go on and get it listed on Marketplace and some of the Ford sites while it's up front. Like I said, we had some rain and it wasn't terribly bad muddy, but then we had a absolute downpour there a while ago. And I've got a gentleman up on the hill trying to pull the motor out of the 05 Dodge Durango. So I'm sure he either got wet or had to get back in his van for just a little bit. But so he's doing that. I had a young man here just a minute ago bought a mirror and a dual tank switch out of a 96 F250 and something else this morning we've sold. I'd have to think about it for a minute, but I'm gonna go back and check on Peg and Felicia, and I'm sure Barney will follow. So yesterday we sold the dually bed off of this truck, and it was a little bit of a chore to get it over on the other guy's truck, and I'll try to add a picture of his truck in the video to show what he's doing. So he's got a big truck. All right, so the bed is not going to fit the length of the amount of frame that he's trying to fill in. So he's actually coming back, or supposed to, and buy this cab, which I'm keeping the doors and some of the stuff because he just needs cab, and he's actually going to cut like right up to the door, that section off, and add it on to his already quad cab truck to fill up that void where the bed will fit. So if he comes back in a day or two and does that, this truck here is getting stripped fast, which is what we kind of want. And so before the big rain a while ago, this old truck was sitting right over here, kind of cod-wobbled. And so we snaked it around to get it in line with the others, and we went to try to move that one, but it's just sitting down, and it was pulling the front end into the ground. And where it had rained last night, it was just slick enough it wasn't going to do it. And I had intended on coming around and grabbing it by the back end and pulling it to get it kind of broke loose, but then it started sprinkling, and then it came a downpour. So we'll have to wait till it dries up. And I just mowed a few days ago, but I'm gonna mow again while the mower is still out here. But then we'll eventually get this white truck sitting here and that red Ford down over there, and then eventually get that HHR up in the hill there where it needs to be around something else. But the old Ford line is kind of, I mean, I got them in here, but now a lot of them's getting stripped. Me and Peg pulled what was left of this old doghouse down here. The fenders and the core support really isn't any good. There's still a couple braces or brackets. And then, of course, this valance and a few things here are still good. And it's still got an emblem and that little piece of trim on the fender. You just never, ever know, you know, when someone's here getting maybe some bigger stuff, and they're like, oh, well, how much is this? And how much is that little piece of trim? And that's why I don't like throwing anything away until I give it a good chance to sell. And speaking of which, last week, the door off this truck sold, and the front bumper off of that gold truck to the same guy. This old truck here, it's a 93. It's still got the plastic over the back seats. So that seat there, if somebody was looking for one, take that plastic off, it ought to basically look about like brand new. Okay, so I had a young man up here needed that mirror, and he had called me, and I priced him the mirror for 20 bucks, and him come and pull it. And so he pulled in a while ago, pretty nice truck, you know, the same era, this and extended cab, blah, blah, blah. And then he had found, he got the switch for the dual tanks, and I sold that to him. And he didn't have no money. So he left the parts, and he goes to an ATM, and he comes back. And I'm sitting up front, and Felicia come up, and I was on the phone. I couldn't talk to her. I told her I'd talk to her in a minute, so she left. And he comes and pulls up here and hits my truck. Now, granted, the fender was already tore up. I honestly can't remember. I want to think this may have had a crack in it. I can't remember for sure, but now it's got that. And so she's over here working. She sees it, and he looks at her, and he gets out and looks at his truck, and then when he drives by me sitting up front, he just kind of waves and goes on. So then I get back here. She said, did he tell you about hitting that truck? And I was like, no. So I look at it, and it's, you know, yeah, if that bezel wasn't bad, and I can't remember, you know, it's 15 bucks. So anyway, the fender was already, you know, dented up and whatever. But the fact is, he done it and he didn't stop and tell me. That's what made me mad. And so I go back through and I find what I think is the number, and I call him. I said, you the young man that's got the mirror? Yeah. I said, well, why didn't you stop and tell me that you hit my truck? And he said, well, I told that woman, and she's over shaking her head. And I said, no. She said you never said anything to her. Well, I kind of looked at her and I'm like, is this okay? And I said, dude, that's still not, that's not how you do things. You know, I know, you know, he's probably a teenager, or, you know, maybe 20 or whatever. I said, it's my junkyard. The right thing to have done was stopped and said, dude, I slid into that truck. Let me come back here and look, and then we'll go from there. And I said, she just weed eating. He said, oh, I thought that was your wife. Poor little Felicia is like probably in her 20s, maybe close to 30. But anyway, I said, no, it's not my wife. She works for me. Her and her boyfriend does. And so he's kind of like, well, I'm sorry. And I just hung up before I got mad and said anything. But he needs to think about that. You know, you don't do something like that and just assume that it's probably going to be okay and not say something about it. That bothered me, because he seemed like a good kid, and I'm not saying that he's not, but still yet that would, you know. And the thing was, he went and got, he owed me 30 bucks, and he went and got 40 out of the ATM, and I gave him his change. So, you know, to done the right thing, he should have stopped and said, man, I hit your truck, you want to look? And I could have looked and said, well, give me that $10 back for my bezel. You know, and the fender is what it is, you know, but that didn't happen. But anyway, that's just how things go, I reckon. So it's getting kind of dark again. I haven't looked at the weather on my phone, but I've got a feeling we're going to get some more rain. I know that we were supposed to, and maybe even some tomorrow. But the Ford lot, like I said, it's getting filled up pretty good. I'm going to save this 2 spots for just regular pickup trucks. We'll get the white one straightened up that I mentioned, and probably since that 87 F350 up front is so long, I'll wait and put it over here to where it can come up some. It's not going to affect anything here, but where the back would be in line with those, because we're trying to leave a row. We can drive behind them. We'll be able to drive through here, and so on and so forth. It's very important to try to leave room between them when at all possible, because as soon as you don't, you'll sell a rear end or something, and then there you are trying to figure out how to get it out or whatever. But I think Peg was back there pulling the ignition and the steering column cover out of the little bitty 2-wheel drive Nissan for my silver Nissan. So he's doing that, but I'll probably here in a minute. I don't know that this gentleman up here is going to get that engine ready to come out today. He may, but whenever either he does and we help him get it out and loaded, or if it starts raining and he quits, then let him go home. But I need to keep him here because this guy's got a minivan, and I don't know exactly how we're going to get that motor in the back of that minivan, but we'll figure that out, I guess, here in a bit.